Welcome back to Explanation Pro. Today we'll be covering a 2022 action fantasy film called The Princess. The movie begins when the princess wakes up class in a wedding dress with a heavy head and chained hands. She only has hazy memories from the previous night. When she looks around, she finds the door locked. Just then she heard the sound of two men approaching a room at once. She lies in bed, pretending to be asleep. Just when one of the men brings his face closer to her, she opens her eyes and headbutts him. She freezes one of her hands from the chain cuff by dislocating her thumb. Then she uses the chain as a weapon to fight back. The princess keeps on fighting with them for a while and eventually, she stabs one's eye with her hairpin, while kicking the other one down the tower. But even before she could compose herself, she hears another footsteps itchy toward the room. She immediately grabs a heavy hammer and slams it on the person as soon as he opens the door. Next it is revealed that Julius considers the current king to be weak. He believes that the king should be someone powerful and thinks only people with enough strength like himself are qualified to sit on the throne. He loathes the king to welcome the outsiders and make them look vulnerable in front of others. On the other hand, the princess unlocks the cuff, gets out and locks the door from the outside. She enters the washroom and observes the situation there. She sees that the royal family and other officials are gathered in the center of the courtyard by Julius and Moira. The king tries reasoning with them but he does not listen to him, and moments later, Julius orders the royal family to be taken away. The princess considers herself to be the reason behind the downfall of her family. She looks back at the day she called off the engagement with Julius. Right then, a masked guard comes into the washroom when he does his business. He does not notice her hiding there. After a while, she gets out of the washroom and looks around her. But it is eventually caught by that very guard. But defeating him was not an issue for her. Looking at the dead guard, she remembers her childhood when she used to train under her martial arts teacher Lin. Lin has taught the young princess that a true warrior is defined by what she's fighting for, rather than how he fights. Next we see a group of mercenaries finds the washed-up body of their fellow soldier and brings it to Julius. They think that the soldier must have fallen off the tower. However, looking at the bruises, Moira firmly believes that the soldier's death is not as simple as it looks. Julius then orders Kerr to check on the princess and Kerr sends one of the guys to get the work done. The two men appear in the place where the princess is hiding. Holding the crossbow in her hand, she asks them what Julius has done with her family. The men underestimate the princess and don't respond to her. So without further ado, she shoots them. While she's making her way back to her room, she sees many mercenaries securing the treasures and valuable utensils behind Julius's back. In her room, she takes out the elegant sword handed to her by Kai Lin's uncle and also the king's advisor. She then changes into her training shoes and sets out to rescue her family. While moving through the hidden passage, she stops on her way and she hears the conversation between Julius and Moira. She hears him saying that once he marries the princess and becomes the rightful king of the kingdom, not a soul can object to him. She comes to know that he plans to kill the king right after the coronation. She almost killed them by piercing the sword through the wall if not for the call of summoning by the king. Later, the king tries talking to him into not committing treason and that they can work together. But his words do not seem to appeal to Julius's desires. Meanwhile, the soldier sent by Carrie, on reaching the princess' room, knocks on the door. When his knock is not answered, he peeps through the keyhole and sees a body covered with a quilt on the bed and a watchful soldier guarding him inside the room. He thinks that it's the princess still sleeping on the bed. So he returns to report it to Julius. As the princess tries to escape, she's again caught by an armored soldier, but it doesn't stop her as she sets him on fire and makes him fall off the tower. It just so happened to be right after when the soldier reported to him that the princess was in a room. Furious, Julius orders Kerr to deal with the problem. After Julius leaves, Kerr belittles Moira for lecturing him, therefore she kills him and orders the mercenaries to kill the vigilante quickly. The princess is cornered by three men. She then has to deal with a huge number of mercenaries before. She leaps by grabbing a man as her landing cushion. Then, before the soldiers could catch her, she jumps out of the window and grabs the hanging cloth. Then she plunges into a room and hides in the cloth-changing chamber. Next, she has flashbacks of the time when the king and queen are discussing her marriage with Julius. The king is persistent in marrying her off to Julius, since they have no heir. When she comes in front of her family, the king is shocked to see her dressed like a warrior handling a sword. She asks him to let her train as a knight instead. Just then, a shadow approaches in front of the chamber she's hiding. Unfortunately, it turns out to be Lin. She treats the princess's wounds and tells her about the things that had happened in the castle. She tells her that Julius has attacked the palace. At night, when they had their guard down, the princess considers herself responsible for the situation that the palace is in. Soon, Lin agrees to support her to save the kingdom. Now they deduce that the only unguarded way out is the sewer. But to reach there, they need to pass through the kitchen. As they move towards the kitchen, they see a few men trying to put their hands on a maid. The duo then attacks those men together. Nevertheless, Moira finds them and gets ready for the face-off. She hurts Lin and hangs the princess with her whip. When the princess is struggling with asphyxiation, Lin comes to her rescue. She then asks the princess to continue on her own. While Lin stalls with Moira along the sewer route, the princess reaches the place where her family is held captive. There she fights the men guarding the area. Meanwhile, the king isn't away to see his daughter fighting. Just when she frees her family and is about to escape, she's hit on her head, which leaves her unconscious. When she gains consciousness, she finds her hands tied behind her back and sees her family in a kneeled-down position. She finds that Julius and Moira have even captured Lin. The princess tells Julius that she's looking forward to serving him as his wife. But she warns them that the coming days will be his total nightmare. She'd make sure that he'd be on edge every day waiting for his final day to come. Since the princess won't be an easy target for him, Julius shifts his gaze to the younger Princess Violet, implying that she needs to take her sister's place and marry him. He then orders his men to kill the princess. While all eyes are on the fighting princess, Lin quietly takes Violet and leaves. Eventually, the princess is thrown out of the window into the water. As she drowns deeper into the bottom of the water, she remembers her father's objection to learning to fight Lin's teachings and also the current situation of her kingdom, and that's enough to bring her back to her senses. She then curls her body, bringing her tight hands in front, and cuts the rope with a shard of glass, to eventually rising to the surface. On the other hand, Julius prepares the priests and gathers all the guests for his wedding. Then he orders his men to find Violet. Immediately, as soon as the princess sneaks into the castle, once again she's found by the guard. However, before he can attack her, Violet pushes the knight statue and hits the guard. The princess reunites with her sister and Lin. Now they plan to work together to stop Julius. Lin brings both the princesses to the underground storehouse filled with different weapons. Now, the trio is equipped with weapons, all ready for the battle. Next, the princess and Lin go out to fight the army of mercenaries, while Violet goes to freak high right under the nose of Julius. But soon, Violet is discovered and captured. Lin and the princess hurry to stop the wedding, and Moira waits for them at the entrance, flaunting her whip. Kai helps the people to escape from the hall and supports Lin. When the princess is busy with Moira, finally, the princess is able to hang Moira with her whip. However, on the other hand, Lin is stabbed by Julius. He then picks the king's crown and crowns himself. The princess tells her parents to get to safety as the fight between Julius and the princess begins. Later, Julius stabs her in her thigh and overpowers her. He drags her in front of the citizens to display his power. While he's babbling about his power, she concentrates all her focus on him as Lin has taught her before. Then she snatches his sword and beheads him. After that, she picks the king's crown and hands it to her father, saying that the kingdom is theirs once again. The king then puts the crown on his head and orders the chapel bells to be rung until midnight, as they have found the rightful heir to their kingdom. He then apologizes to her for not believing in her earlier. Later, the king announces her as the heir and decrees that every woman in his kingdom is allowed to choose their own way in their life. The princess limps towards Lin and hugs her. Everyone around applauds her for them as the movie comes to an end. Thanks for watching today's recap. Hope you liked this video. If you did like the video, don't forget to hit the like button and also subscribe to our channel to get more interesting recaps in future. Till then, goodbye and take care.